talent, even more special person. Could be the MVP, very likely will be this year. What a series it's going to be on both sides. You've got two of the better players in the league in Giannis and Kawhi, and supporting cast members on both sides who have stepped up. With more in this series, who else and who better to talk to give us the latest on the Bucks, and the great Marcus Johnson kind enough to join us here. Marcus, I'll start with this. What kind of a tone does it set, and we've already seen this in the last series against Boston, for the rest of this team, when the guy who's your most talented player in Giannis is also your hardest working?
No, you're right. It sets a tremendous tone, and he is the guy that you have to beg not to come to the gym on day offs. And I think a couple of days ago, Coach Budenholzer gave the team a day off, and everybody showed up. I believe it was a Sunday, and everybody showed up at the gym to either get treatment or to work out or to do something. And Giannis is a big reason why this team collectively has that kind of work ethic.
Marcus, can you give us an update on Brogdon's physical ability right now?
Yeah, Coach. I mean, he played a lot more effectively than what I expected, having been out the amount of time. I think it was a month or so that he was out since he hurt his foot. 4 to 6 weeks, I believe, was the initial prognosis. So watching him play, I mean, the quickness was there. Now the rhythm and timing and the lift, all that still hadn't come around to being 100%, but you wouldn't expect it to be. But from what I understand, he is going to continue to come off the bench. He's requested that to be a part of not the second unit, as Pat Connaughton has said. That's not what they like to call themselves. They call themselves the bench mob. He says that's a promotion, not a demotion. So Malcolm Brogdon wants to stay a part of that bench mob and allow things to remain the same with the starting unit. But as far as I know, physically everything is fine, and he's taking advantage of this time off to get more treatment and make sure he's closer to 100%.
MJ, the Jet, a question for you. What is the biggest difference amongst the role players this year? I know last year, Bledsoe's first playoff experience, he kind of struggled in that series against the Celtics. But what have you seen to be the biggest difference with Middleton and Bledsoe's approach this year?
Well, I mean, so the support guys, I hate to call those guys role players, but I guess when you got Giannis as the leading man, I guess that's pretty much what everybody else is a supporting player. But the thing that I've noticed with Bledsoe this year, Jet, is that he's a lot more comfortable in his basketball skin. The coaching staff took a lot of time. Charles Lee, the assistant coach, they spent with him in Phoenix during the offseason, just kind of getting to know him and not putting the pressure on himself to feel like he's got to go out and produce points. They want him to be the defensive guy and to set the tone defensively. And as you know, I mean, he's well suited for that with his physical stature, as strong as he is, blowing up dribble handoffs and putting pressure on guys in terms of defensively picking them up at midcourt or even further three-quarter court. Chris Middleton, he's had to find a way to be just as effective as last year with reduced minutes. He was one of the top 4 or 5 guys, or top 6 guys, I think, in minutes played from last year. This year's minutes are down to about 31, 32 a game. He spent a lot of time running around. You were there, Jet, in John Sweeney's defense where you're trapping and rotating and covering a lot of court. He was one of the top 4 or 5 guys, Chris was, and Giannis, in terms of defensive miles covered. This year, they're not even in the top 40. So their minutes have been reduced, and also the amount of court coverage they're required to cover defensively has been reduced. And so Chris is a lot fresher now, and his minutes over 36, or his production over 36 minutes is actually better than what it was last year. So even though his points are down slightly during the regular season, his production has been up in terms of minutes played. So my point being, he's fresh right now. He's fresh. He's confident. Coach Budenholzer had to bench him because of lack of defense back in December against the Knicks, December 1st. He responded since then, and he's going to be key because he's the guy that can battle Kawhi in terms of physically. Chris is 6'8", 235. He does a good job denying Kawhi, and he'll make Kawhi. He won't stop him, but he'll make him work for his point. So that's the big difference between both those guys last year to this year. It's mainly defensive mindset compared to last year.
You know, Marcus, on the offensive side, I think everybody's biggest question about whether or not the Bucks were a paper one or a real number one was, hey, look, when Giannis dominates, that's great, but how about the open shots that he creates and hitting them. And Middleton, Mirotic, Connaughton, really everywhere you look, you got that in the last series. I know it'll be important again, but pinpoint, if you can, one player who you think maybe more important than we're giving credit for here in this upcoming matchup against Toronto when you look at the Milwaukee side.
Well, I think you look at Brook Lopez. Brook Lopez shot about 28, 29% from the three-point line against the Celtics. He struggled to knock down that shot consistently, and he's been a guy that can stretch out Ibaka, can stretch out Gasol, bring them 30 feet away. I think both he and Mirotic were two of the leading deep three-point shooters in the league, 26 feet or more in terms of percentage and the amount that they take per game. And so that's what Coach Budenholzer does. He gets those four quadrants around the three-point line field. And Brook Lopez, I think, will be a key player in this series. He shot the ball poorly, but played great defense. And that's why he deserved to be on the floor, because he really does a great job covering the cup. He does a great job helping out on Kawhi. You force Kawhi to drive, especially going to his left, and Brook is always there to contest and challenge. So defensively, Brook is going to be a key, but even more so, if he can get hot and start knocking down some of those long three-point bombs, that's really going to open up things even more for Giannis. And those other guys you mentioned, give credit to John Horst and his staff in the front office. They brought in Ilyasova, Pat Connaughton. They brought in Mirotic. They brought in Brook Lopez, all guys that could spread the floor, and it fits perfectly with the skill set of Giannis.
Marcus, always appreciate it. Thank you so much. Looking forward to what should be a great series. Top two in the East get at each other. It should be fun. Thanks again.
Oh man, it's going to be terrific basketball. I can't wait to get it started.
You look at this series, and thanks to Marcus, you look at this series, and Coach, we know there are two dynamic stars. They're different players, but they both set a culture for their team with the way they play defense. How much are you looking forward to? And I know it's the NBA. Wait for it. Don't shut your screens off. Some tough D from both sides in spots down the stretch of games, something we're not able to say very often during the course of the regular season.
No, I think these teams are really going to be special in this Eastern Conference Finals because they're led by their stars. Their coaches understand that if they're going to have a chance, they have to somehow come up with a way of stopping the other team members, besides, obviously, the star. During the regular season, Toronto lost 3 out of 4 games against Milwaukee. And the one game that Toronto was able to win, their front line completely dominated Milwaukee's front line. You had 30 points from Siakam, you had 30 points from Leonard, and you had 25 points from Ibaka. That's huge games from their front line, and it was the most disappointing game for Brook Lopez when they lost that one. He only wound up, I think, 5 points in that game.
You mentioned Serge, and by the way, Mark is pointing out that Brook's obviously a big factor. Mentioned Serge Ibaka, I'll use the LeBron term. He activated Jet playoff Serge. And now, look, this has not been an easy time for him. Was playing a ton of minutes, was starting. Gasol comes in. What does it mean? Then you're not starting. And Kawhi was brilliant. Take nothing away. But they don't win that Game 7 if Ibaka doesn't hit big shots, make big plays on defense, be active. He's capable of all of that. How scary is it for Milwaukee if that turns him into doing that now for an entire series, something we really didn't see the first 2 rounds?
Well, for Toronto, they know the combination of Gasol and Ibaka gives them added depth in the front line, which you need to stop a force like Giannis Antetokounmpo, because if you allow him to get in your paint and dominate you the way he's done these other 2 opponents, then you're in for a short series. Ibaka is a rim protector, but he can also space the floor as well on the offensive end, and you've seen him hit crucial three-point shots there down the stretch in a Game 7 when everything was on the line. So he has tons of playoff experience. This is a guy they can depend on. And, yes, it has been an adjustment since Marc Gasol has come over. His minutes have went down. He's been forced to come off the bench. But I think he's accepted that role, and he's starting to thrive here late in the postseason.
Yeah, Coach, if you ask Coach Brad Stevens about what the difference was in that series, among other things he referenced often in his postgame after losses, the three-point shooting of Milwaukee. And that when open shots were created, they were made. And Chris Middleton was a guy, even though he was an all-star, who many people questioned, can he get it done in a big spot? Pat Connaughton, nobody even talked about, and he might be the best bench player we've seen, sans Lou Williams, in the postseason in terms of what he's done. How about the shot makers from Milwaukee and the importance of them to continue in that side?
Well, kudos to the front office that went out and got Ilyasova, went out and got Connaughton, Lopez, guys that can spread the floor, especially when you have maybe the best guy at putting the ball on the floor and getting to the basket, either getting fouled or scoring or finding an open teammate. But if he's going to kick it out, you have to have guys that can make shots. And that's what they did. They saw where they needed help along the way. They went out and added the right pieces.
Whether you have stars or not, you're going to need that second guy sometimes. And look, Dame has been brilliant. We'll get into that series. But CJ had that one where he just, forget it, it was phenomenal. Siakam has had a couple of games that have helped the Raptors get wins in the playoffs where he has been their highest scorer. The growth has been huge. Now even another test for Siakam to see where he's at as he faces a defense and a coach who will obviously be game planning to find a way to limit him, knowing what they're going to get from Kawhi.
And Pascal Siakam, the most improved player in our league this season. He's gotten better statistically every single month in his scoring. But for me, in this postseason, this last series was tough for him against Philly because he had to guard Ben Simmons, he had to guard Jimmy Butler. Now, he has to learn from that past experience. He's going to spend a lot of time on Giannis. He has to stay out of foul trouble, but then offensively, his mindset has to still be attack. When he rebounds the basketball, gets out in transition, and becomes a scorer, he is deadly. He's not yet there on the level of Giannis, but he has some of the same skill sets when you're talking about getting out in transition and creating opportunities offensively.
Well, listen, during the regular season, the leading scorer for Toronto against Milwaukee was Siakam, over 24 points per game. Then you had Ibaka at 22 and Kawhi Leonard at 22. And then the next guy was Van Vliet. The guy who really struggled during the regular season was Kyle Lowry. Shot 23% from the floor against Milwaukee's long, active defense.
And it's been a different kind of defense. We know he's been capable, but Eric Bledsoe has really stepped up that side of his game in addition to the offense this year. Did we say guards, defense, offense? Chase down blocks, big-time shots. They were part of the formula that CJ and Dame took to get to the next round.